of our readers and people who listen to the program would like to have the opportunity to know a little bit about you as a person. How would you find yourself as a person? Who is David Icke?
Well, I've got a chapter heading in one of my books, I'm not David Icke, because, you know, I see the difference between the true self, which is consciousness, and the experience my consciousness is having, which is at the moment called David Icke. And we can get so mesmerized by identifying with our name, our job, our culture, country, race, that we lose the real self-identity, which is consciousness. The David Icke personality level of me is the way I interact with the world, I guess, is a strange contradiction, you'd think, because everything that I've pretty much done in my life, whether it was a professional footballer or then a journalist and television presenter with the BBC, and then a national spokesman for the Green Party, and then all this stuff that I've done since 1990, they've all been in the public eye. They've all been in the public domain. And yet me, I am a very private person who doesn't like the whole public thing. It's funny that the way my life's gone when that's me. For instance, you know, when I do an event, I'm back at the hotel as soon as possible, you know, in my own space, because I just like that privacy. I mean, I spend now, I mean, most of my life has been with other people, but over the last 5 years, I guess something like 90% of my life is alone. It's here, working, researching, and all the other things, and I go out walking alone, and I love interacting with people. I love the events and the interaction with the audience. I mean, that is just the nicest thing in my life in terms of my work and everything. But I'm a very private person, and I don't like the public side of it. I'd much rather be anonymous. But given what I'm trying to do, I can't be, and that's been a challenge for me. So you can imagine what it was like to experience in the early 1990s that absolute historic proportion level of ridicule that I went through in Britain, when the person experiencing it was someone who doesn't like the public eye, doesn't like, likes privacy. And my whole life was like, here he is, look, every facet of it. But it did something for me. You were chatting before about how did I overcome the fear of reaction from people in terms of what I'm doing and saying. And it's all kind of tied into that, because the greatest prison, or one of the greatest prisons, right up there, that most people live in, is the fear of what other people think. When you fear what other people think of you, then you're no longer living your life. You're living their version of what you should be. You're editing your life. You're censoring your life. You are going through these mental processes of what do I leave out, what do I not say about what I feel, and how do I put what's left in a way that's acceptable to these people so they won't think I'm crazy or whatever. That's what happens when you fear what other people think. Well, my concern about what other people thought of me was hit by some nuclear weapon, it seemed like, and just shattered. And that was the years, and it still goes on today in the mainstream media in Britain, but who have no idea what I'm saying. They've never bothered to find out. He thinks lizards run the world, that's it. That's as far as it goes. Is there any more? No. It's just that's so you're always going to get that from the mainstream media. But in those days, in the early 90s, early mid 90s, I mean, it was just incessant ridicule. Now, when you even walking around here in your the town where I live was ridicule and laughter. Going into a bar or a pub, just impossible. Forget it. It was just uproar. When that happens to you, you either fold and just withdraw from the world, and it was tempting, but never considered, or like steel going through fire, you come out a different person in a way. And I came through it without that concern anymore about what people thought of me. Now, when you look at life, you can see it as a series of random events. This happens, then that happens, and that happens, all by accident. Or when you look at your life, and certainly it's blatant when I look at mine, you can see things happening that eventually become a clear sequence of events that are leading somewhere. And when you think of the information that I'm writing and talking about years after that period of mass ridicule, if I had not been cleared out of the fear of what other people thought of me by that experience, that extreme experience, there's no way I would be talking about and writing about hybrid bloodlines connected to non-human reptilian entities and moons that aren't what we think they are. I mean, you'd go, I ain't saying that. What are people going to think of me? And because of the ridicule, I can do it without any even vague resistance of what will people think. Because people can think what they like. They have every right to think what they like, but then so do I, and that's the bit that we forget often. And so when I look back at that mass ridicule, I can't say I look back at it with affection. It was horrible. And my children were ridiculed at school and followed to school by journalists, and it was all horrible stuff. But it gave me a massive gift, and I've said many times in my books and interviews, life often gives you your greatest gifts brilliantly disguised as your worst nightmare. And it gave me my worst nightmare, but it also gave me, with hindsight, my greatest gift.